It's been a long, exhausting day. Your troubles just won't go away. One thing that gets you through these is watching cheesy holiday movies. You think that you're above them, but you know that you love them. So get ready to listen. Now here comes Kevin and Kristin. Oh yeah.
Welcome to a very special Remark episode where Kristin and I are fortunate enough to have the writer and one of the stars of the movie Love Always Santa. I am your host, Kevin Reagan. With me is Kristin Finger.
Hey, Kev. So excited we're meeting a star and a writer.
I know, this is great. We are going to see if he'll put us in a Hallmark film. Let's see how he responds to that. So give it up for the writer and one of the stars of Love Always Santa, Jay Black.
It's good to be here. Thank you so much. Again, I apologize for the blinding light behind me. This is a bet. When I set up the computer in my house, I did not expect that I'd have to be doing Zoom calls on a near constant basis. So
I think that's a general feeling throughout everybody at this point. Yeah.
I also, I don't know if our viewers at home realize that I'm in a different space, but with the same decorations. It is because it is Eagles game day here in Philadelphia, and my husband needed the TV downstairs. So I have gone upstairs, and it's hot up here today.
Yeah, it's disturbingly hot for November. I keep walking around thinking this is like the first act of a disaster movie. You know how there's always like that, like foreshadowing where it's like, gee, it's really weirdly hot, and then we discovered that the sun is going to explode or something. That's what it feels like.
I just hope Jake Gyllenhaal's in this one because he saved the day in The Day After Tomorrow.
Oh yeah. So listen, as long as he goes shirtless, I don't mind the world ending. That's what I say.
Right? I think that's the general feeling as well.
Thank you for understanding everyone in the world's feeling about Jake Gyllenhaal.
Absolutely. I love it. By the way, I know this is a Hallmark movie, but Nightcrawler with Jake Gyllenhaal, the fact that he wasn't nominated for an Academy Award still rankles me, as it was the best performance that year. Drives me nuts.
It's so uncomfortable. It's so uncomfortable to watch that movie.
And we all know people like that. And when I say that to people, they go, yeah, Jay, you're the person in our life that reminds me of that character. And then I feel bad. But it's a great movie. So
it's really good. You know what else was a really good movie? The one you wrote.
Oh right. Love Always Santa. Right.
I'll be honest, I watched it again last night. I think I'd seen it maybe in 2016, and I watched it again last night. And I got to tell you, man, one of the things I really enjoyed about it was not just the comedy in the script, but the fact that the comedy works in the script.
I appreciate that. And I'm going to tell you little behind the scenes stuff. They almost didn't buy it. We produced this movie with a company called Mar Vista, and you might see Mar Vista's logo in front of a bunch of Hallmark movies. Hallmark has two types of movies. They have the in-house movie, and that's produced by their company, and then they have ones that they acquire. And there's a whole sort of sub-economy of movie houses that create movies specifically for Lifetime and Hallmark and stuff like that.
Okay.
And Brian Herzlinger, who directed the movie, he's also a Jersey boy. We've known each other since fourth grade. Aww. And we've been working together our whole lives. He directed, we wrote it together. And I don't live in LA. He lives out in LA. Okay. So he was attending all of the screenings and all of that, like with the executives and stuff. And at one point, one of the executives came out and said, this is not a normal purchase for us. And we were on the fence about getting it. Now, they only brought it up because I assumed they were going to say something nice afterwards, and they did. They were like, oh, we're very happy we acquired it. But they don't like funny. And that's what took me a while to figure out. They want humorous, not funny. And that distinction is hard as a comedian. Very difficult to come up with because I just want to be funny all the time.
Right.
So a lot of times they would come back and be like, cut this joke, or this is too funny, or we're not writing a comedy here. We're writing a Hallmark movie, which is a different kind of vibe.
It's interesting too that you say that because you have characters in this film that are the characters that you kind of like. I mean, Hallmark gets hit oftentimes for a very formulaic way of making a movie. You know,
Sure.
we recognize a character really can be popped out of one movie, put into another with no, nothing affecting the overall movie.
Right.
Whereas this, you had no villains in this movie, which is great.
Yeah.
And it still ends up on Movies and Mysteries, which typically has a villainous character. So
I don't know. Is Randy the villain?
or even Hank, played by our own Jay Black.
Yeah.
You know, he's very like realistic in his approach. It was very refreshing, but that character oftentimes you're like, this is the bad guy. He's going to yank Jake out and put him on a book tour whether he likes it or not, and he doesn't. He clearly cares about him. But then Randy, who you would assume, well, this guy, he's going to be the problem. Randy was like a sweetheart that you want to succeed, just not with Cecilia. You're like, well, I hope it works out for you in some capacity, just not here.
So that actually we found in the drafting. In the original conception, Randy was a bad guy, a typical bad guy. And our buddy Brady Smith, who, if you watch Hallmark movies, if you watch Lifetime movies, he's in a lot of these, and he's great. He's good friends with Brian and I.
Okay.
He's Tiffany Amber Thiessen's husband.
Okay.
That's amazing.
His Twitter handle's Mr. Thiessen, which I like. But he is one of the friendliest, nicest, just genuine people that you'll meet in the world. So like when he comes on to play that role, now we're starting to draft a little bit, and it's harder and harder to write Randy as a bad guy.
Yeah.
And Brian's good about this. Brian is sort of, I'm the dialogue guy, he's the heart guy, because he'll be like, why can't it be nicer? Can we make it nicer? And as we went on, Randy went from this sort of more typical Hallmarky villain into this guy who is a nice guy, just the wrong guy for Celia, as you guys put it. Yeah. Just a simple, nice guy who wants to build his potato gun.
I needed to ask that. Like, was that on the fence? Like, were they going to not let the potato gun bit in, or were they going to fully let it in?
Well, there was a lot of questions about the potato gun in every stage, because I'm a stand-up is my regular job. And it comes from, I used to have a bit about male energy, which is that males have incredible energy, but it's completely unguided. So a man will put the same amount of energy into curing polio as he will into building a potato gun. And for us, it's the same thing, which is why we need women sitting next to us going, do we really want to be building a potato gun when the house needs a new, siding? So I just got it into my head that there are guys out there in the world that love these potato guns. And I just couldn't let go of it as a funny thing in my own head. So it was originally a little bit bigger. So every time I had a reference to the potato cannon, we had to have a discussion in-house, like, do we want to have this many potato cannon references, or can we cut it down? So this is this is the maximum that they would allow, and the minimum that I would allow.
Yeah, it's funny you say that about it, and you corrected Kristin and I, because it is potato cannon, which they distinguish that in the film itself.
Right. And that was just a tick I gave Randy that he cares about that. I don't know why he does, but
I love it though.
I actually was at a party very early on when I think my wife and I were still dating, and I met most of her family, and they had a potato cannon. And I'm very, very close with her cousin now, but I was a catcher at one point, and I said, let me get my catcher's equipment and launch a potato, and I'll catch it. And to this day, I still have a welt on my leg, and it's like about 17 years ago. Right. So they're real deals, man.
Right. And this is one of those things that you'll meet people, and they'll talk about a hobby that they have. And like, it's one of my things that fascinates humanity to me, where it's just like, oh yeah, I'm really into building guns that fire potatoes. And you can't really ask why. I guess we're taught to respect each other's differences, but you want to go, what are you doing with whether or not you believe in a higher entity, you were gifted life, and you're spending it seeing how far you can fire a potato. That's hilarious to me. I love it.
What if that's what the entity that created life was really trying to do? It couldn't figure it out, so it created something that could. It's just,
Well, then it's not a supreme being. It's probably a race of superpowered creatures, and they were kind of a reject on their planet, would be my guess at that point.
I could see that, yeah. So that's very interesting. Going back to what you said originally, you guys did not write this script. You weren't approached by Hallmark to produce this script.
No.
You made this film. How early was Mar Vista involved in the process?
So they were involved in the inception.
Okay.
They were building it 100% to sell to Hallmark or Lifetime or any, and there's lots of places that air Christmas movies now in the Hallmark model, and they all have different, I don't want to say formulas, but sort of what they're looking for is a little different from place to place. And you know, Mar Vista came to us and they said, Brian and I, we had done a movie with them called Meet My Valentine, which aired on the Ion channel a year before.
Okay.
And it did very well for them. And they said, hey, do you have any Christmas ideas? And we had this idea that we have an idea folder, and this idea of a little girl writes to Santa Claus and Santa Claus writes back. And that's sort of all we had was a yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus type deal.
Yeah.
And it's sort of, we started talking to this woman, Margaret, who works, she was at Mar Vista then, who was our producer. We started to flesh it out. We did what they call a one-pager, which is basically a 3-paragraph outline of how you see the movie going. Then we did a full outline, which is about 10 pages of here's everything that's going to happen. And then we wound up doing between 4 and 5 drafts, not including the drafts that you do on set. Okay. Because things will happen like, you know, we had the Ferris wheel, you know, which was in there. And we had another thing. I forget what it was. But you have a producer who's your money guy on set who's putting all this together. And they come to you and they go, you can have the Ferris wheel or you can have the, you know, the big wishing well. You can't have both. Figure it out. And we rewrote on the spot.
Wow.
And
yeah, that makes sense.
I'll say this. What's interesting about this movie, it wasn't until maybe the day or two before that we figured out what the movie was about. Wow. And we realized that the villain of the movie, there isn't a villain. It's the specter of this dead husband that Celia and Lily are dealing with. And we realized this isn't a love story. It's a mother-daughter story that has a love story that's waiting to happen once that gets resolved. Yeah. And once we figured that out, the highlight, the big part of the movie was Celia and Lily talking through the door.
Yeah, oh my God.
So good.
Yeah, that was my favorite part too. And that was written last. That was literally the last thing that was written because we couldn't figure it out. We had all these things where it was Jake and her, you know, staying at the same hotel and not realizing it and both getting stuck in there. And none of that worked. And it wasn't until we went, oh, Celia and Lily is the story. Yeah. Jake is secondary to that. That's when it all sort of coalesced into place. When
the girl who played Lily opened the door, my heart just broke. Like she just was like her face was, oh my God, it was very sweet.
She was great, wasn't she?
I love also really liked that the moment before that where the Celia yelled at her, which is such like a true and honest moment of like, it's not like she's yelling at her kids. She's just, they're both.
That frustration boils over. Yeah.
Right.
And I just really was like, oh, like, cause in most of these Hallmark movies, the kids are like perfect and no one causes a problem and blah, blah, blah. But there was just this real life moment. And I was like, and then, it just, and it earned that outside the door moment, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. Yeah. And I think that that's a testament to Brian and the actress who's, I should have probably rewatched the movie or looked at the IMDb before doing this interview, but the young lady who played that part was spectacular.
Her name's Isadora Swan. She was excellent. And again, so often in these Hallmark films, the weakest link is the child. And, you know, sometimes, or it goes the other way and they steal the scene. But you had very, very good actors. The entire, pretty much any scene you were watching, you knew it was peppered with really solid actors.
The kid got comedy because there was a moment where they were shaking hands and she just leaned in, was like, he's got it.
Well, and when she was angry in her breakfast nook, when Jake's in her nook and she's not, and she gave that like just look of like, get out of my nook, buddy. It was like, oh yeah, all right.
She did. She was spectacular. Yeah.
I also thought was it her friend? It wasn't her sister, was it? Her friend. Oh boy.
Helen.
Helen
Yeah,
was
that's her sister, her older sister.
hilarious.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you did that on purpose. To me, I thought she was the most hilarious thing in the movie.
Well, so one of the criticisms that the movie gets is how much they hate her.
What?
Really?
Yeah, Celia's older sister. If you look online, and I confess that the first year I would check the IMDb reviews.
Don't do it.
Yeah,
It's not worth it, Jay.
It's always heartbreaking, always. But a lot of people are like, "Oh, I hate the older sister. Helen was such a B word and all sorts of terrible stuff." But I thought it was, first off, I thought she played it, as you said, it comedically, just very, very dry comedically.
Right.
Yeah.
But I felt like she was a lived-in character and wasn't just a terrible person. I thought she was a person who felt sort of stuck and unloved in her own life.
Yeah.
Didn't want her sister to go off and do spectacular things. It was upsetting to her, which I feel like, that's a standard thing that happens with siblings.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right. You hit it on the nose, on the nail on the,
There's a nail in the nose, and I punched it.
You nailed it on the nose. She was so dry because anytime she delivered a line, there was like, her face was so just, I don't know. I really liked her. I might look up what this woman also has done because I liked her that much.
Yeah. So I have a question for you too. While you guys are conceptualizing the script, at any point was Ben the mailman going to actually be Santa Claus?
So, no.
Okay.
Ben the mailman was always kind of, I don't know how much this happens in Hallmark movies. They don't like magic, is what they've told us, is that, we are about real life people in real life situations, and any kind of mystic magic kind of stuff is not a no-no, but not exactly something that they look for in the movies they acquire.
So we're not getting like a voodoo Christmas anytime soon from
No. My Haitian Christmas movie is completely off the table.
Different market.
Yes, exactly. But the idea there was just a nod actually to 80s TV shows where Brian and I grew up like on Family Ties and all those kind of, and in every Christmas episode, there's always an overweight white-haired gentleman with a beard who somehow knows that you wanted a particular dolly. When you're 8 years old, and you go, that couldn't have been, was it?
Yeah.
So we just wanted to have one of those in our Christmas movie because
he even had the red scarf inside. So I was like, this that's cool.
It was meant to be. He could be that person. We don't know, but it was always we don't know.
Right.
Towards the end of the movie, when it turns into almost a bank heist in a sense, and your character Hank and Jake end up, stranded, and they find this barn that is Santa's workshop. I really thought that was going to be Ben's place when that moment occurred.
So here's another little inside thing.
Yeah.
Speaking roles cost money.
Yes.
And anytime you see, I don't want to say low budget because this was a pretty good budget, but when you see a mid-tier TV movie budget, what you'll always kind of think to yourself, it feels closed in, and I don't know why it feels closed in. And generally, it's because there's only 6 or 7 speaking roles in the movie. Mm-hmm. We had already had a lot of speaking roles, and in the original script, Ben was the owner of that house. And it was a Mrs. Ben, and he loved Christmas, and that was all going to be part of it. But, you have 90 minutes, and you have a certain number of speaking roles, and to sort of give this tip off that there might be this magical house somewhere that is connected to Christmas was too much money to do that. And it ate up time from what you wanted to get, which was more of Jake and Celia and Lily. So that all got whittled down. So draft 1, that was all in there. By the time you got to the draft that you got, it was just a house that so happened to love Christmas that it was all Christmassy.
Yeah.
Was the one horse riding sleigh always in the script?
Yes, it was always there. From day one, we wanted to have a real life, he's dashing through the snow in a one horse open sleigh.
Did you write what he was going to be wearing, or did costumes just nail it?
We write dressed in a Christmassy outfit because
it looked uncomfortable as hell.
Yeah.
The scarf,
Yeah.
The reason why is that's not him. That's a stunt man. and they had to cover up his face. Now they didn't have a stuntman for me when I sort of like let the horse go by.
Yeah.
As I found him. And that's a big horse. So what happens is on set, you get a horse wrangler whose job it is to bring over the horse. So he goes up to me and he's like, hey, just be careful. And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, oh no, this horse, if it kicked you, would kill you.
Yeah, it's a Clydesdale.
It's a Clydesdale. Yeah, it's huge. So as it goes by, just don't upset it. I'm like, how do I don't upset a horse? And he's like, yeah, you'll be fine. So yeah, it was a scary sight. So it was always in the script, he's going to look like in a Santa-y outfit.
Yeah.
But we had the costume designers had to make it so you couldn't see his, it was only his eyes.
Yeah.
So that when he showed up, we could reveal and, oh, look, it's Jake and not the guy we hired to do about horses.
It's funny too, Jay. I love that there were lines, and I almost wonder how, if there are lines that are cut essentially, because again, Hank says a few things that are very un-Hallmarkian. The one, it's the unwrapping the Christmas presents line.
Right, yeah.
And there was another one. It was something about speaking in code. I forget what it was. And I was like, wow, man, like I'm just surprised knowing the Christian values of Hallmark that they would be like, unless they just flat out did not catch it.
I don't know if it's that they didn't catch it. Like I said, I think this is one of those ones where they did say this was on the line for us.
Yeah.
And had we gone too far in that direction, like one more millimeter in that direction, they probably wouldn't have bought it. Yeah. I think it's just they liked the feeling of the movie as a whole. And I think the fact that it is a little different is the thing that is the biggest strength of the movie, at least compared to all the other Hallmark movies, because you'll see in the reviews again, like, the people who didn't like it because it wasn't exactly like a Hallmark movie. Yeah. But the people who did like it loved it because it wasn't exactly like every other Hallmark movie. So
it's so true, because I selfishly, to get Remark out there in the world, joined like 6 Hallmark Facebook groups.
Right.
The comments in these crack me up because it's so funny what someone loves and then what someone hates. And they don't fight about it, but they just like say it. Well, I didn't like it. Well, I didn't like that guy. Well, I love that guy.
Yeah.
And
I saw one and I loved it where it was somebody had said, these two have no chemistry, and somebody else wrote, they're married in real life. And I was like, oh man, that doesn't mean they have chemistry.
Yeah, no, so listen, they've said that about me and my wife many times, and I get that 100%.
Now, Jay, are you going to write us another one that Kevin and I can be in?
Oh, no, we can't speak.
Yeah, no, so
we don't have to talk.
We had one that was what they call a harvest movie.
Yeah,
that we wrote for them.
Oh, we're familiar.
A lot of the harvest movies. That one is with COVID. I don't know when it's going to shoot. It was supposed to shoot in September, but the COVID protocols and all these things are onerous from a money perspective.
I bet.
You're talking at least another $50,000 just in testing and making sure everything's okay, which for bigger productions makes a lot of sense, but for independent productions that are going to sell, it's very difficult to do.
Right.
Right now we had a Lifetime thriller that came out in July called Psycho Yoga Instructor that Brian and I wrote.
Yes.
And then we have 2 more that are coming out for Lifetime in 2021 that I'll talk about at the time, but they're pretty fun. You're gonna
awesome.
Like those a lot. Yeah.
Okay. Is Brian working? Do you guys always partner, or do you guys do other projects as well?
So we do other projects.
Yeah.
Brian will direct. He's directed probably 40 of these at this point, between Lifetime and Hallmark. He's doing a Lifetime Christmas movie right now in Canada. But when we write together, he generally directs all the stuff that we write together. So I live in Jersey. He's off directing. While he's directing, I'm doing a draft, and then we go over it together. Then it goes out into the world. And Psycho Yoga Instructor was our 3rd TV movie.
Okay.
5th movie overall, and hopefully 2 more next year.
Yeah. So for anyone watching, Brian Herzlinger, who we're referencing, a lot of fame that people might know him from was My Date with Drew, which was a documentary he had done in that was
2006.
Okay. Which was awesome because that was in film festivals beating out things like Garden State and Napoleon Dynamite, and it was like, this thing's legit, man. So
that's actually how we started working together.
Okay.
We've known each other since elementary school, and he did My Date with Drew, And My Date with Drew was this phenomenal success.
Yeah.
And they kept asking what he wanted to do as a follow-up. And I happened to be out in LA just visiting, and we took a walk, and he was saying, well, like, these are some of my ideas. And by the time we got done the walk, we were writing partners, because it was like that sort of give and take of like, well, what if he did this and then this and then this? And we started writing. That first script we did will never see the light of day because it was the worst thing that was ever written by anybody. But the second thing was a comedy called Three for the Road, which is as far from Hallmark as you can get. It's a hard R comedy. And we sent it out everywhere, and everybody called us back. Like, all the junior executives called us back and said, this is the funniest thing I've ever read. And I went, oh, great. Are you making it? And they're like, no, we showed it to our boss. They hate it and you. They never want to see you. It's so over the top. But those executives, as they got older, moved into positions of power, remembered us and started calling us in for other jobs. So it just goes to show you, the act of creation is far more important than the act of creating well.
Yeah.
You create for you put it out into the world. And the biggest difference between me and every other writer I've ever met is I finish.
Yeah.
That's it. Because everybody you meet, I'm sure through the course of this show, you have people who go, oh, I have a great idea for a Hallmark movie.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody, they all have one. They never do it. And the only difference is, and I would say this to your audience, I write it. Creative executives are not as bad as people make them out to be. They're actually, like, they care about it. They just can't create on their own. They need something to criticize. It's like I say, it's like my wife. They need something to criticize constantly. Yeah. So if you give them something, they'll go, oh, I didn't like this, this, and this. Go fix that and I'll make the movie. Yeah. Versus, here's my idea. And they go, all right, great, go write it. 99.99% of the people in the world never go write it.
You know, Jay, it's awesome because it's so funny. It makes Love Always Santa almost autobiographical for you, because Jake essentially says that to Lily. Right. Lily wants to become the writer. This is not me telling you, Jay. You know that. No. For the audience, Lily wants to be a writer. Jake is a writer. He's written 5 or 6 books, and he basically says to her that idea of commitment. Just keep going. You just have to keep going. And it's a great message, especially for a little kid, but I think it's a great message for like a 45-year-old. Like,
100%.
You got to keep going.
Life is a war of attrition. It constantly grinds you down and tries to make you quit. And I always say that, like, at least in Hollywood feels like that scene in Fight Club. I don't know if you know Fight Club, where you have to wait for 2 days before they let you into the Space Monkey house.
Yeah.
And, Meatloaf comes out and yells at you, we don't want you here. That's what Hollywood is people yelling at you for 2 days. I don't want you here. And then after the 3rd day, they go, all right, come on.
Yeah, you're still here. Yeah. I love this. This is the true heart of what Remark is. We talk about Hallmark, but we will always reference stuff like Fight Club and Crawler. Like, we're worldly.
Yeah.
While I have you, if I could just clear something up right now, this is very important to me. The big question that everybody has at the end of Love Always Santa is about the snowmobile. Yeah. How they just left the snowmobile there.
Yes.
It was not written that way. It was, we did not have time at the end of the day. We only had one day at that wishing well. And we had some line in there about, I'll call Mikey's parents and we'll get them to come fix it up, or I forget what it was. We had thought of it. Yeah. It just did not make it into the final script or the final scene. Nobody thought of it at the day. I wasn't there. If I were there, I would be like, somebody say something about the snowmobile. People are going to be pissed at that. And I swear to God, I sat with my whole family. The entire family watched it. The end, I say, so what'd you think? And they're like, kind of jerky how they just left that snowmobile there. That was the only remark I got. Yeah. So I just want to clear that up now. We had thought of it when we wrote it. We just didn't film it. And that's what happens with these movies. Anytime you see these things and you go, why did they do that? Generally speaking, it's just like anything else where you're like, well, we wanted to do it. We just forgot. We didn't have time. We didn't have the money. So now people know.
Hey, say whatever you want. You ruined Mikey Sullivan's Christmas. That's what it turns out. Awesome. Well, listen, we want to thank you for making the time to talk to us and our fans. This is great. Is there anything else that we can plug for you here?
I have a website, jayblack.tv, jayblack.tv. I also have a Twitter feed. If you like left-leaning politics, follow me. If you don't like left-leaning politics, do not follow me. But what I say to people is that I try to. I've written for Howard Stern. I've written for Hallmark. I try to find the in between on my Twitter feed. So find me on Jay Black is Funny, JAYBLACKISFUNNY on Twitter. But otherwise, just keep watching Hallmark. And every time that Love Always Santa is on, just watch it on repeat. I think I get like 8 cents if you do that. So if you could do that, it'd be awesome.
Awesome. I'm going to send you 8 cents because I watched a bootleg on YouTube.
Yeah,
perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Jay, this was
guys.
Great, dude. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great one. Enjoy the Eagles game. Let's hope they win.
Hey, Kev, you know it'd be really, really cool?
What, Kristin?
If we did Remark live.
Kristin, I've got some great news for you.
What is
We
it?
are! This Thursday night, December 3rd at 8 p.m., you can get tickets right now at this link. Oh, it's up there? Where is it? There's a link somewhere. If you follow that link and buy tickets, you can see Kristin and I live talking about the movie The Christmas Waltz. But as always, Chris and I will not do it alone.
No, we have 2 amazing live special guests. 1 is Kelly Vroman. 2 is Ron Vroman, her dad, who loves these movies.
If you remember, Ron Vroman went very, very viral last year watching Hallmark movies. Well, he's going to be here watching a movie with us. You can talk about it, we will talk about it, and we'll have some other surprise contests, some surprise guests, some surprises.
You'll be surprised.
So buy your tickets at PhiladelphiaComedySports.com, or you can go to CSZ Tix. That's this Thursday, December 3rd at 8 p.m.
I'll be there.
Me too. Wait, let me check my schedule.